Today, I wanted to talk to my friend Shirley Williani. She runs Ala Carte Solutions. They're an outsourced bookkeeping, accounting consultancy firm. And she has a lot of expertise dealing with this PPP of late. And that's been a top of mind for many people. A lot of you out there, my friends, have reached out and we're all asking each other who's gotten it, who didn't get it, what should we do, what are the tips? And so I figured it's a great time to bring my friend Shirley here because she's been dealing with a lot of these. And so I had a couple of questions. I actually made notes that I wanted to ask her that I knew I was talking amongst my other friends and peers in our industry already. And so we can start. Shirley, do you want to say anything before we dive into the questions?
No, I'm excited to talk to you, and thanks for inviting me.
Very cool. Cool. So first question everyone's asking us is anyone even getting funded? I know for myself, we applied the first go round. We didn't get anything. We tried several different places, a lot of misinformation. But in your case, have you had any successful PPP loans get funded?
Yes, we have. Obviously not as many as we would have liked, but I'd say about half of the applications we have submitted so far have either been approved or funded. So definitely was a rocky start. I don't think the banks were quite prepared for what the U.S. Treasury had wanted to roll out. And so the second round of funding, which just started on Monday, seems to be a lot smoother because, the banks and institutions have had a couple of weeks now to sort of understand what needs to happen and, get their ducks in a row, if you will.
Yeah, they kind of got the slap on the wrist and got in trouble for maybe funding too many big companies first, right? Yeah,
definitely. Those big banks have really, done a huge disservice to the smaller businesses. We're definitely seeing more loans being approved by banks that are either smaller, credit unions, regional, local banks. And if you are working with a bigger bank, it seems like, having a relationship with someone at that bank where they know your name, maybe they have your cell phone number and you have theirs, they can sort of with white glove service take your application through to the SBA. Those are the types of relationships that seem to be, the ones that are really helpful in this funding.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's more difficult these days. I know from my own personal experience being a client of Wells Fargo, they kind of shy away from that. Like the olden days when I had different banks, they're very more accommodating and dealing with us personally. I know from our standpoint, just dealing with Wells Fargo, it's more standoffish. Everything's online, and the first go round, we submitted that first weekend, and right away we got a letter that says maybe you should look elsewhere. Right? It's come Monday, so it's pretty much we thought we're in. We did it right at the beginning, but so we'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful for this second round, as I know a lot of my friends are as well. So next,
absolutely.
Yeah, next question I has is, what do you think on the cases where you did see these get funded, besides the small banks and stuff? What recommendation would you have for people like myself out there that are trying to hopefully get it on this go round?
Yeah, so I would say the most important thing is make it really easy and simple for your bank to understand your documents. So, and what I'm talking about is like really easy stuff, like, the name of your file. If you're sending the 940 for 2019, make sure the file name says 940 for 2019, like spell it out.
Wow,
and, they're getting hundreds, if not thousands of these applications. So why not put the name of your company, right? VFX Technologies 940 for 2019, so that when they see it, they know, okay, this file is for this client. They kind of see your name. So just make it, as simple as you can possibly make it for them to be able to know exactly what you're sending them, what they have, what they don't have. And just, make it easy for them to sort of follow your paper trail. Like if you're preparing a calculation that shows your payroll costs, make sure they can easily see where all of those numbers came from. Provide the supporting documentation for all the numbers that you're providing to them in the calculation.
Good point. Yeah, so basically do as much work to make it as easy as possible so there's less chance of them having to come back and ask questions, right? Or where is this or whatnot. So
that's exactly right. Yeah, I would say just like try and think about any possible question that they could have and be proactive and just answer it before they even ask it by providing the documentation.
Got it. The next big thing I wanted to know too is I've seen mixed information. Some people were saying there's online info that says if you apply to 3 or more different outlets, right, you might get disqualified for the whole thing. Then I heard people say, no, do that. And what is the real, can you apply at multiple banks?
Yes, absolutely. You can and you should apply to multiple institutions. The SBA is, they have a system whereby they're going to use your company EIN number to see what loan applications have been submitted on your behalf, and that's how they know, not to duplicate efforts and approve more than one loan for you. So I would say definitely, use at least 2, if not 3 different financial institutions to apply. Now, I did hear of one person that actually did get 2 applications for the same company approved. I'm not sure how that happened, but obviously, you don't want to accept both of those.
Yeah, you've been in trouble for that.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Great. And then, so now assuming this next go around, many of us that didn't get it, let's say, are getting it, and even people from the first one, the next big topic is what can we do to make sure everyone wants to get the forgiveness, right? So the forgiveness means, right, the government will, it's like they're going to pay you that money that you would have owed, right? So it's very important. So what do you recommend? What do we do so that we have the most forgiveness for this loan?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And, the guidance is still coming out, and I feel like it's going to continue to change. But as of right now, the loan you get is 100% forgivable under certain circumstances. So the first thing is that there's an 8-week sort of time in which you have to spend the money and show how you spent it. So from the day you get the money, count 8 weeks later, that's sort of the assessment period, if you will. And what you're going to need to show is the following. So number one, they're going to want to see that you restored both your headcount and your payroll costs back to pre-COVID-19 levels. And the date I've heard is February 15th. So if at February 15th, you had your payroll records that you submitted had 10 employees, all full-time, then you're going to want to show that during that 8-week period, you still had 8 employees all full-time, or maybe, you had, 12 employees and some of them were part-time, but you definitely want to show, the full-time headcount restored, and then also the payroll cost. So if you were spending $100,000, you want to show that you continued to spend that same amount. So that's sort of one thing. The other thing is that, there are certain things that are included in payroll costs and certain things that aren't. And to my knowledge, the same items that are included in the payroll cost calculation for the maximum loan amount that you put together when you applied for the PPP loan are going to be the same things that they're going to be looking for in their definition of payroll costs for forgiveness. So that means, benefits, health insurance, retirement contributions, those things are included in the definition of payroll costs. And there's still that limitation of employees that make more than 100K. You can only include 100. Right? Yeah, it's capped at 100,000 annual. So all of that said, only 25% of the amount that you are asked for forgiveness can go and can be spent on anything not payroll related.
Like rent or mortgage, it says, right? If you own the building.
Yeah, so mortgage, rent, interest on mortgage, utilities, things like that. Again, I think the guidance is going to change and, additional information is going to come out. But for example, if you have a $100,000 loan, only $25,000 of that can be spent on non-payroll costs, in order for that to be forgiven.
And the payroll costs, the benefits and things like that do count towards the payroll costs, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. As of right now.
And things can change, I know.
Yeah.
It used to be change a lot even from when they first announced it, right? People were trying to find out. So.
Exactly. Yep.
The other interesting thing that I was trying to get my head around too is in a case of like some of our clients and friends that have businesses where because they're not fully open yet, it doesn't make sense for them to hire everyone back. Is it an all or nothing? Meaning, let's say they had 10 employees, but realistically they can hire back, let's say 7, right?
Yes.
Because the other 3 are only working, let's say storefront, and there's no storefront right now, for example, right?
Yep.
Can they still get some forgiveness, or it's like all or nothing, or do they,
It's not all or nothing. So the forgiveness amount will be reduced by, the portion of the headcount that you didn't restore.
Okay, good. So that's good.
Yeah. But I would say, like, the absolute most important thing, in addition to all the stuff I just explained, you got to keep really good records. Excuse me. So what I'm recommending to our clients is if you do get a PPP loan, get those funds in a completely separate account. Have those funds dispersed into a new account, and then keep track, really, really good track of where that money is going. Even as far as getting your payroll service provider to deduct the payroll expenses from that account instead of the account you have been using. So at the end of the day, what you're going to need to do is show your bank an accounting of what happened to the money. Where did it go? So the easiest way to do that is, just make the money come straight out of the account instead of having it transferred, to and from your other accounts. Because then from there, you're going to still have to need to show, like, okay, where did the money end up going after that, and have to provide cancel checks and things like that. So I'm recommending.
Really good advice there, because I was just thinking of how many other transactions that are irrelevant that we have to prove and say, no, don't look at that, don't look at this, that doesn't, and that's such good advice there. Yeah, because having our own separate account just for the PPP would make it very easy when you make your case for the forgiveness. I think that's a great idea. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'll say just one other thing is, like, in your accounting system, a really good best practice is also to use classes, create a class called COVID-19 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And, make sure you tag the transactions that are forgivable or eligible forgivable expenses, tag them with that class. And that way you can really easily run a report that shows you all of the forgivable expenses. And when it comes time to apply for forgiveness, you just run that report and make sure that everything on that report is also showing up on the bank statement as, debited from that account. So like I said, like, just anything you can think of to make it super simple for your bank to see what you did with the money.
Cool. What else do you recommend in case, besides PPP? I know there's things about payroll tax credit maybe, or maybe other initiatives. Let me know what you think. What other things can we, business owners out there, small business owners, what other options are out there to help?
Yeah, so if you end up not getting a PPP loan or not applying for one, you may be eligible for a payroll tax credit. And from my understanding, it's really simple, but it's basically just up to $5,000 of payroll tax that's basically waived, that you don't have to pay per employee.
Okay.
So that's actually another, something that helps. It's not going to be as helpful, obviously, as a forgivable PPP loan that's, 2.5 times your average payroll, but everything helps. And I think $5,000 per employee, especially if you're a small business, could go a long way.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think there's some, for an example, where I can think of where that would be better for them would be someone that's in the middle of being acquired and they don't want to take on a loan, even if it might be forgiven. And so this way they still can capture the value of what the government's offering and not alter their debit and their, credit part of their balance sheets and stuff. So yeah, there's all sorts of people out there. And I think that's another good one that people can take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let me see, was there anything else I wanted to ask you? I'm just checking my notes here, see if there's anything I'm forgetting. I guess the gray area, and you might not know this yet as the things are coming out, is that 25% what are some of the things we can use there? Is it very spelled out or, to be forgiven? You could use it for anything, I understand, but for it to be able to be forgiven. So assume we got 75% went to payroll, no problem there. The other 25%, like the rent and things like that, what things in there can we use it for that might be forgivable?
Yeah, so as of now, what the guidance has actually spelled out in black and white is kind of limited, honestly. It's mortgage, interest on the mortgage, rent, and utilities.
Got it.
So that's pretty limited. There's companies out there that still can't run their business if they don't have, for example, in your business, I imagine you've got, like equipment, right? That you have to rent and use, so I imagine that the guidance hopefully is going to change to allow for things that are essential, for actually running the business and actually keeping the lights on that are outside of just the mortgage and the utilities. But as of right now, it's kind of limited to those things.
Got it. Okay. Well, it's good to know. And then, if whoever needs to use it, it's still a low interest loan.
Yes.
So it's actually not that bad of a deal anyway, if you need it to get over this hump. So.
Especially if you don't have access to other, capital or sure. Credit line or whatever. It's, I think the interest rate's only 1%. So it's super, super low interest rate, and there's no payments for the first 6 months. So it's completely, free money for 6 months. And then after that, you start, needing to pay it back.
Great. And well, this is all good info. One final question I had is, outside of all these relief programs, PPP, as yourself dealing with so many businesses, small businesses, and helping them out, what can you recommend to help get through this pandemic, for all sorts of business?
Gosh, so I would say, a couple things come to mind. Really do a deep dive and deep cleaning, if you will, of your expenses. Go through every single dollar that you're spending and really try and think outside the box creatively about, how you've been spending the money and if there is a different way or a better way. Do I really need that service? Is there another company out there? Maybe you've been with one company for a certain service for a really long time and you haven't spent the time to kind of shop around and see if maybe there's a better deal for the same thing. So I would just say, this is the time to really cut down on unnecessary things.
Sure.
But I'd say that the other thing that's really important, if nothing else, that I think the lesson we've all learned is the value of relationships. Having people on your side, right, who know you, who understand you, understand your business, and you're not just another number. Your banker. Get a relationship with a bank. Somebody who's hand you can shake, although we're not shaking hands anymore these days.
The virtual handshake.
Yeah. But just, the value of your relationship with your accountant, your relationship with your insurance person, these are the things that really matter when you need them most. And I don't know that it's going to be as easy to get that relationship going now, or maybe even try and get a line of credit or anything that you can get. It might not be as easy to do it now than it was, a month or two ago, but definitely will be easier now than it will be 2 months from now or 3 months from now. So I would say get a relationship with a banker, try and get a line of credit in place. if you are able to get that line of credit, or if you have a line of credit, I would draw that down, put that money in a safe account, and just let it sit. Just make sure you have liquidity, I would say, is key.
Very, very good tips, because I think a lot of us, we think, oh, it looked like the end. I mean, when this started, I thought, oh, it's going to be a few weeks, as the reality starts setting in. So now this is my concern, for example, and friends and peers I talk to that also run businesses. It's, okay, so this ends, but not everyone's going to jump back in full force. I mean, some things might be.
No.
Some things are really, like, based on California's guideline of 4 stages, like concerts and live venues and things like that's like on stage 4. So, there's still a long road ahead. So, I think everyone needs to be very careful and just try to create new revenue streams if possible, and just be very careful, right? To, go on a financial diet, I guess.
Yeah, exactly right. And you actually touched on a point I think that's really important. And that's, finding new ways to make money, right? Shifting or pivoting your existing business offering, and trying to get creative and think about, what else can I do? How else can I shift? How else can I provide value to my customer?
Yeah.
I think, that's definitely a really good point.
Yeah, some of the restaurants that we like Tender Greens, they're, you're getting other supplies when you get the food. I think it's brilliant. I think they're really smart. They move with the times, and I think we all need to,
Totally.
if you want to make it through this in one piece,
Absolutely. It's so important.
Well, Shirley, thanks so much for your time. This is awesome. I know you and I always talk regularly as friends anyway, but this is very valuable info that, people that I'm friends with, and I want to put this out so a lot of these clients, vendors, people we deal with also might get some nuggets of value there. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody needs any help or has questions, we're here. We're helping our clients not only get this PPP money, but also set them up to make sure it's maximum forgiveness as well. So if anyone has any questions or needs help, we're here. Yeah, and what I'll do is wherever this is posted, we'll put some highlights. I'll put the contact info for Shirley and her company, and basically highlight all the stuff we talked about, all these good nuggets. So, all right. Awesome. Thanks, Sarok. Good seeing you. All right. Same here. Bye-bye.